Hello, my name is Kim Garcia Bennett, and this is my ILA presentation for the 8303 EDLE course. And my project is on access to success for students with disabilities. So, my focus goal, because I work for Coastal GLRS and I'm a director and I work with administrators to achieve excellence for students with disabilities, I chose to focus on Islands High School in Savannah, Georgia. In Savannah, the school has approximately 1,300 students, and 10% of that student population are students with disabilities. But as I'm working with them to intentionally support our students with disabilities, we recognize that um, ninth grade algebra scores for students with disabilities are the lowest in the school in that core content area in the core content area. As we were looking at student data, we were doing observations. The focus walks determined that the need for specially designed instruction to support access to the curriculum for students with disabilities, there was a great need for that. A review of the school improvement plan suggested that intentional instruction on SDI instruction was not happening, and we needed to make sure that our teachers were equipped with that. And then also a review of the needs assessment that we conducted, and our teachers determined that they really needed specially designed instruction and wanted additional instruction support. And the interesting data on that is 5 out of the 5 special education teachers who completed the needs assessment in those core content areas rated understanding of SDI had a level 3 of 5, 5 being great knowledge. And what was interesting about that is that the principal really told them to take the needs assessment seriously and to ensure that because if they said they were at a 5, he was going to ask for the evidence of that. So that was pretty interesting. And then, of course, I said 10% of the population are students with disabilities. So here are the scores, ninth grade Algebra 1 EOC scores. As you can see in the developing learner, in the beginning learner categories, the data is consistent across the board. It ranges from for beginning learners, it ranges anywhere from 60 to 70 or 60 to 80%, hovering around in that area. And then, of course, developing learners and then proficient learners and distinguished learners are are a little bit non-existent. So going back to the beginning, when I talked a little bit about the role of the administrator and equipping our teachers with strategies to be able to support students, but more importantly, our students with disability. The teaching service that we laser focus on, especially design instruction, because it's included in the federal definition of special education. It is adapting as appropriate to the needs of the eligible student under Part B of IDEA, the content, methodology, and delivery of instruction to address the unique needs of the child that results from the child's disability to ensure the access for the child to the general ed curriculum so that child can meet that educational standard. The research behind this, first and foremost, especially design instruction as the law is required by by the Individuals with Disability Act, IDEA. SDI is not a tool. It is not what the student is doing. It is the instruction provided by the educator. And then SDI means adapting the content which relates to the stated purpose or learning goals, adapting methodology or the process by which instruction occurs, and adapting the delivery of instruction of the instructional strategies implemented based on the needs of the student. And then adapting instruction for students with disability in math is really challenging. And I enjoyed that research because it identified the areas because of the lack of basic skills, and then how are we supporting them. That's why we chose specially designed instruction to focus on. And then it also suggests that providing tools and strategies in a systematic way can improve student outcomes. So my SMART goal, what is it? The intended outcome is during the 22-23 school year, Allen's High School will decrease the percentage of students with disabilities in the category of beginning learners in ninth grade Algebra 1 from 80 to 60% as measured by the local school common summative assessments and district assessments. And this is huge because we want to make sure that although my focus with the school is all core content areas and specially designed instruction. However, really looking at the lowest core content in student scores and laser focusing on that and collecting data on that to ensure the measures that we are putting in place are effective. So my research question: are students learning? How will SDI and Universal Tier 1 instructional strategies increase students with disabilities achievement in ninth grade Algebra 1? So the leadership PLC consists of the principal, the assistant principal, the special education compliance teacher leader, and the special education instructional teacher leader, and then myself. The important thing about these roles is that the principal works with his leadership team to develop clear and observable expectations to ensure that teachers understand, the focus, the expectations for our students, for teaching our students with disabilities, but more importantly, how to teach effective Tier 1 strategies. The assistant principal focuses on that team in particular, and his role is similar to the principal's. The unique thing about the special education compliance and instructional lead teachers or the unique things about them are that one really focuses on compliance, making sure that IEPs are written effectively, goals can be generalizable, and that way SDI can be planned for. The instructional lead teacher supports helping her colleagues with the intentionality of instruction and student engagement. And the reason again for this was the highest percentage of beginning learners for students with disability were in Algebra 1. And it is a core content needed for graduation. And then the intentional focus and outcomes on the implementation of especially design and instruction and universal Tier 1 teaching strategies is extremely important. So navigating this work, of course, is action planning. It's making sure that we created a calendar for meeting times and dates, and leadership professional development if needed, creating clear and observable expectations for teaching students with disabilities, creating a timeline that includes action steps, due dates, accountability persons that are responsible for those things, artifacts, and then, of course, the evidence of success. Conduct observations and provide timely feedback on planning, instruction, and reviewing data, providing professional development on SDI and Universal Tier 1 strategies, engaging leadership PLCs, engage in the leadership PLCs using an agenda to review what is happening, implementation of successes, barriers, implications of this work, and then determining the next steps based on the data. And then, of course, continuing to observe, provide timely feedback, provide professional development as needed, and review and document the outcomes. Prioritizing the work is basically just implementation. The school has been provided professional development, teaching teams using a co-planning protocol and the 7-step planning process to intentionally work on specially designed instruction. They utilize a research-based platform with resources to support SDI. Teaching teams participate in the professional development and as well as universal Tier 1 effective teaching strategies. And that's all teachers, gen ed and special education teachers. Teaching teams co-instruct using various teaching strategies because, again, we're focused on that Tier 1. And then leadership conducts observations and provides timely feedback. So here are the outcomes, the impact checks for this. The impact checks for this are, of course, the weekly PLC calendar that the intentionality of meeting together every week and having an agenda to meet, the professional development that was provided, the aggressive monitoring, SDI, rigor ready, academic discussions, and of course SDI too, and then providing observations and feedback. First, the first focus being PLC collaborative planning. What does that look like? Observing those and help supporting those, focusing on the other observations were focusing on SDI and co-teaching models, and then the additional focuses on those aggressive monitoring, rigor ready, academic discussions, and then checking the data, focusing on the monitoring and academic dashboards to look at the data. And then the outcomes at this point are 23 of the 29 SPED students pass Algebra 1 Quarter 1, and 9 out of 29 SPED students currently passing Algebra 1 Quarter 2 midpoint. And if you can see there's a calendar of events that is attached to the action plan to make sure that there's access and clarity for everyone. The glows and grows, the glows were the administrator prioritizing this work and supporting the outcomes for students with disabilities. And it is focused, intentional, and tracked. The evidence of effective co-planning and co-instructing has been observed, documented through focus walks and support during PLCs. Evidence of student growth has been determined through student work and benchmark assessment data. And then the cycle of support is implemented with consistency and fidelity. I think the grows, we need to continue with professional development on parity and co-planning, support professional development for lead teachers to be able to effectively lead, increase the frequency of observation and feedback around improving Tier 1 SDI, and then reviewing the IEP goals for the ninth grade students with disabilities to ensure that they're generalizable enough where we can support the work. I think for me, the changes to the plan is making sure, if I was to go back and change, it would be establishing roles and responsibilities with intentionality for those lead teachers, and making sure that they are equipped to be able to communicate effectively with colleagues, providing possibly professional development earlier in the year for them, and then creating a timeline for my support as we go and we grow. We are learning my role and how my role, it should be served as a thought partner and a coach. So the cycle of support, continue to focus on the focus walks to document evidence of effective Tier 1 strategies and SDI, continue providing PLC planning support and professional development opportunities, continue leadership PLCs to determine the needs of teachers and students through data, and then continue to monitor and update action plans with evidence of outcomes, and then create a calendar for additional focus walks and GLS director support. The lessons that I learned, again, are the role of the administrator significantly impacts outcomes for students with disabilities. Effective and intentional implementation of a plan is crucial to the success of SWD. My role should always be, again, to serve as a thought partner or coach to impact how the work is implemented, why the work is implemented, whether the implementation is the most effective way to accomplish successful outcomes, and then clear and observable expectations and inspection for the work are necessary to support teacher growth and student learning. And those are my references.